Hello, this is Julia Widup with Talk Story TV, and I have with me today Mike Finton, who is the author of a book called The Savior's Guardian. And I'll just let Mike tell us more about his book.
Okay. Well, thank you, Julia. This is my book. It's called The Savior's Guardian. And I'm really, this is a culmination of 6 years of effort. I started my book, actually when we lived in Washington State. And I went to a writers conference, Christian Writers Guild, run by Jerry, I forgot his name. Anyway, he wrote the Left Behind series. And he wanted to give back to writers, and so he started the Christian Writers Guild. And I went there thinking I was going to get a publisher and an agent, and I learned very quickly that I didn't know very much. And I had been writing all of my technical career, and so I thought, and then I'm an avid reader, and thought that I just knew everything about writing, and I learned very quickly that I didn't know what I was doing, and that there is so much competition for writing books. And
Yes.
So I was actually there by myself. My wife was at home, and I called her and I said, "Hey, I need to learn more about writing, especially about writing novels." And so I signed up for the Christian Writers Guild apprenticeship class, and I quit writing altogether for a while and took the apprenticeship class. It took me 2.5 years, and I learned so much about writing, and the book is better for it. Actually, near the end of the study, which is 50 classes, and near the end of that, it actually takes you right back into looking at your own stuff, what you've written, and making it better. And so it took me right back into writing again. And I essentially started over, and everything, I couldn't believe. When I started reading what I'd written, I just couldn't believe what I'd written. And so the book became better for it. But the whole process is amazing, Julia, the whole writing process. And I've really enjoyed it. And everybody who's read my book has enjoyed it. So it's really a work of love. God has inspired me. I know that. And maybe I could tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, tell us about the story, a little bit about the story.
I will. Yeah. Imagine it takes place at the time of the birth of Christ, and this takes place during the Magi are going to worship Jesus, and the Prince of Persia sends his captain of the guard. His name is Asherah, to watch over the Magi as they travel from Persia to Judea, and Asherah is essentially torn from his perfect life. Here he is, 25 years old, and he has the world, is his oyster, and he ends up having to go with the Magi. They face great dangers crossing the desert, and he ends up being asked by the Magi, who have spilled the beans to King Herod, that Jesus has been born. If the Magi never went to Herod, Herod would never have known that Jesus had been born. And so they feel bad about that. And so they ask Asherah to stay behind and secretly watch over Jesus and the family. And so it becomes Asherah's commitment to spend his life then, the next 30 years of his life, secretly watching over Jesus. And that's the story. And what happens to Ezra. And so it ends up being a very interesting story. You get to see what happens with Jesus through the years we don't know much about. I didn't take too much license about trying to explain that, but I learned a lot. I did a lot of history. I did a lot of research. Of course, I didn't deviate from what it says in the Bible, but I learned a lot, and I put a lot of history and a lot of what I learned from even our travels. My wife and I went on trips to the Holy Land. We also went to Ephesus in Turkey, and I took all of that information and I put it into the book. So it really makes it interesting.
So you got to tax deduct those.
Well, I didn't actually do that, but just to get to take those travels, and it was really amazing. In Ephesus, for example, we got to go to what are called the terrace houses in Ephesus. And Julia, if you ever get the chance, I strongly recommend to go to Ephesus because it's an amazing city.
What were they like?
Well, this is where the aristocrats lived. And so these are Roman houses that were built on the hillside, thus the terrace houses. And we saw veneer walls of marble cut no more than 1/4 of an inch thick. We saw mosaics on the floors, columns, and just amazing artwork that have been reconstructed since the 1960s, and they're still excavating. And we got a special guide to take us through the terrace houses. Not everybody gets to go through this special area, so we got to see all that. They even had running water inside these houses.
Wow!
Yes, with bathrooms, and we got to see the clay pipes, and they even use some of those clay pipes still, right to this day, to run water in certain parts of that excavation.
Did they make you walk through in little slippers to protect the floors?
No, but we did get to actually see the workers while we were there, and they're in not special clothing, but they are very careful in what they do. Everything is done with gloves, and it was interesting. We got to see people washing down walls. We got to see them. They had these tables with all these marble pieces. It looked like jigsaw puzzles, where they're trying to put pieces back together. It was very, very interesting.
How amazing!
And so, yeah, it was. And so there's a city that I talk about in my book called Sepphoris, and I'm convinced that Jesus and Joseph, we know that Jesus was a carpenter and Jesus worked under Joseph as an apprentice. And we think of, maybe a lowly carpenter with his little shop behind the house or something like that. But I actually believe that Joseph was a craftsman, and that he worked in this city of Sepphoris, which was no more than an hour's walk from Nazareth, which is where Jesus grew up with the family, and that Joseph was actually a builder, and that he built much of Sepphoris, which was being built at the time when Joseph and Jesus would have been, building things. And I believe that they were probably building things even all through Jesus' life up to the time when he actually started his ministry.
So you may have been looking at things built by Jesus.
Oh, I'm not in Ephesus, but like what we saw in Ephesus, and so I was able to write that into the book. It was amazing. So I got to talk about fountains, in villas and mosaics and the marble and that kind of thing. And to imagine, in my research, I was actually able to see, what they're doing in Sepphoris, like what they're doing in Ephesus, and equate that and put that in the book. So it was very, very interesting.
What an adventure! And you
very much so?
Are you writing a new book now?
Actually, I'm writing a sequel, and I still have more things for Asherah to do. And it's called the Imperial. It's Imperial. Oh, I forget my word. But anyway, it's about an APB from the Roman Emperor looking for Asherah to come to Rome. And Asher's not sure he wants to go.
Because they
but
might.
Anyway, a lot of what I've learned is that Jesus was very influential on the Roman military. And so the book focuses on what that influence is all about. And so, again, a lot of research, and I don't know if you remember from when the centurion in Capernaum came to Jesus and asked for Jesus to heal his servant. Mm-hmm. And Jesus said, well, I'll come right now. And the centurion said, all you need to do is say the word, and I know it will be done. And Jesus was so amazed of that centurion's faith. And there are many other places in the Bible where Roman soldiers in particular, were influenced by Jesus and what he accomplished and what he did.
But they're the ones that killed him, aren't they?
Well, yes. Even at the cross, there were Romans who were carrying out what was being done to kill Jesus on the cross. And there's a Roman who, even right before Jesus' death, says, surely this was the Son of God. And so even at the cross, there's a Roman who realizes that he was witnessing the death of a Son of God. And so very much an influence even there. And so that Roman very likely became a follower of Jesus. So
wow.
there are many other places throughout the Bible where Roman soldiers in particular were influenced by Jesus. And I think it actually leads on to Roman military becoming followers of Jesus.
Okay. Wow, sounds like a fascinating book. It really does.
I think it even leads to Rome in particular, and so that's in the next book. The call from Rome leads Asherah to Rome, and I'm not going to give away the story, but my publisher says that she thinks I have a good book too, a good second book.
And who is your publisher?
I use Brass Frog Bookworks. Her name's Patty Hoff. She's right here in Grand Junction.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, what are you going to have it out in audio?
I don't know about audio. I haven't gotten that far yet, but it is available in bookstores here in Grand Junction and also at the Tattered Cover at the 3 stores in Denver. It's available electronically on Amazon Kindle and Barnes & Noble Nook. And I'm looking to expand my horizons and try to make it more available. I also have a website, www.saviorsguardian.com, where people can go and actually see pictures of Ephesus, for example. I've put up pictures about our travels in Ephesus, and so I'm trying to get out there more and give people an opportunity to share what we've experienced, as well as find places to get my book more readily.
Great. And did you write a guest blog for tvbackstory.com?
I have one ready, so
Great.
I'll get that up there.
Okay, so be sure and put your link to your website on there, because that I promote that, and I highly encourage anybody who's watching this to go to tvbackstory.com and read Mike's guest blog and see his links and his pictures and stuff.
Great. Thank you. I'll do that.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to tell the viewers before we sign off?
No, I just very much appreciate what you're doing, Julia. It's a great opportunity to get the word out, and for us authors, and just thank you so much for this chance to talk about my book.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you.